Einstein said that everything is energy. And I believe when you turn that statement around, it's also true. Energy is everything. How energy flows through us and how we manage our energy directly dictates the quality of our life.
The more that you repeat something, the more and the stronger those connections are. It's through repetition. And the more we repeat it, it becomes then a part of who we are. If we want to create a new habit and a new way of being, then we have to repeat it over and over again.
People who had a high level of stress in the past year were 43% more likely to die prematurely, but only those who believed that stress was bad for you. Those that didn't believe that stress was bad for you actually had no greater risk of dying prematurely than those who had very little to no stress.
The definition of focus is when intention meets attention and direction. So that's truly what focus is about. It's not just about our attention, because we can give our attention to something, but it could be the wrong thing. Maybe we got emotional and reactive, and it took us in a different direction than our intention. So it's attention, and the direction that we want to go in.
Welcome back, everyone, to the channel Soul Center Wellness, a place where we support you in your holistic lifestyle, where mind, body, and spirit work together for that desirable, mindful change. Today, we have Penny Ziner. She's an international speaker. She's a 2-time best-selling author, a psychologist, and she's also a business strategist and a Focusologist, a term I've never heard before, Penny. However, but I do want to thank you again for joining us, and I do have a lot of questions about your new book called A Reset Mindset. One of our 4 pillars here, what I preach on my holistic channel, is living a holistic lifestyle, and we actually have 4 pillars to do that, and one of them is the mindset. And so my first question for you, Penny, is what inspired you to create a book or create multiple books, and what made you want to share your method to the world?
I've always, since I was a little kid, I wanted to make an impact. Seeing in the movies, I loved movies, and they had such an impact on people that I felt like I wanted to make a difference for people. So, that's really what my driving force is behind writing a book. And I feel that I've had a lot of great success in my life, and I've helped, as a strategic business coach, I've helped business owners around the world to, double and triple their business. And so I was like, well, I want to be able to simplify this and bring it in a way that would help people, everyone, to be able to implement this. And so that's really the driving force, is just, and it's been a great journey just to simplify something down into what I've done in my book. Took a long time, right? Mark Twain said, if I had more time, I would make it shorter, right? So that's where the art comes in, is really bringing it down into a simplified form. It's been fun.
Thank you. And I know in your book, you talk about growth mindset. Can you break it down for us, what growth mindset is? And, you also mentioned the reset process, and maybe you can break that one down too. But does that happen first by determining what our growth mindset is?
So let me back up a second. So Carol Dweck in 2006 wrote a book called Mindset, and it was about how we can create success through our mindset. And she introduced to the world this concept of fixed mindset and growth mindset. And we kind of, throughout our lives, we go back and forth between them. So it's not like you're just in one. A fixed mindset means that we feel like things are happening to us, that we stick to everything that we know and the way we've always done it because it's safe. And we feel like we don't have any control over the future or over things around us. And so, but when we're in that state, it's kind of stagnant and there's no real growth. So she talked about when we understand that we can turn any situation into a lesson, and if we're learning, we're growing. And if we give effort and persistence, then we can learn and grow. And then we do have influence over our destiny and what we create in our lives. And so that's learning over time. The reset mindset, which is the name of my new book, in comparison, is the next generation of the growth mindset. And it has a slightly it's nuanced, right, for today's rapid change and fast growing environment, because it's different than 2006 and things are changing much more rapidly. And so we need to be more adaptable. So it's not about effort and persistence, because we've got that down, but that's what's burning us out. The piece, we can actually put in less effort and achieve more so that we can grow exponentially when we embrace the skill set and the mindset of resetting. So the reset mindset. It means that we are, one, the foundation is value creation, is that we're looking for ways to add more value to those around us, to ourselves, that we're looking to also recognize value in ourselves and in others. And it's about dynamic reassessment. So in light of that value creation, we're dynamically checking in. Are we still on the right path? Because maybe the way and the method that we need to work forward is changing. The goal might be the same, but maybe the path is going to change. But we need to be present to that in real time and adapt accordingly to the feedback that we get, whether it's a product in the marketplace, a product or service, or whether it's the people that we work with on our team. As different team members come in, we have different constellation of the team. So we have to be dynamic. And then the last element is that we need to have that mindset that's a willingness to reinvent. That maybe the best practices that we used coming up to this point is what got us here. But as Marshall Goldsmith says, what got us here will not get us there. So we need to be willing to reinvent, to look at things differently, to explore and find new and better approaches for our changing environment. And so those are the little nuances that make the difference from a growth mindset to a reset mindset.
I mean, I have to say, like, this book has really changed my perspective in a lot of my life, and I want to thank you for that. I do find some similarities, and maybe you can tell me if this is true or not, but is this similar to setting an intention in spiritual practices?
Yeah, I think it's absolutely grounded in intentionality.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the difference with intentionality is a lot of us have good intentions, but we don't follow through with those intentions. So this would be where intention meets basically what I say the definition of focus is when intention meets attention and direction. So that's truly what focus is about. It's not just about our attention, because we can give our attention to something, but it could be the wrong thing, right? And not, maybe we got emotional and reactive and it took us in a different direction than our intention. So it's attention, and the direction that we want to go in.
I also see some similarities, because you talked about the fixed mindset. I also see some similarities with the ego, programming, repetitive patterns, limiting beliefs.
Yeah.
Is there a correlation to that?
Absolutely. I mean, the whole act of resetting is to dynamically look at, what story am I making up here? What beliefs are holding me back? That can be absolutely a part of it, so that we can bring it into our awareness, right? Into our consciousness, so that we can reframe it and recognize that that's no longer true, or it never was true. And, but we don't have the ability to act on it until it becomes conscious to us, right? Because a lot of our beliefs and stories that we tell ourselves are not, we're not conscious of. So this reset practice allows us to see what's in our way and get out of our own way. So it definitely is rooted in some of that as well. I would say it's kind of like spiritual, emotional, as well as and mental, has a mental aspect. So it really covers all three of those together, right? If you think about what those three things that I said about reset, right, is it has that intention piece, right? It covers that, as well as the necessary action that we need to take in order to achieve what we want.
I really like that on your book, Reset Mindset, you broke that down. And I like how you have the growth mindset, and how you talked about, the values, what your dreams are. Because I've been using the reset mindset throughout ever since I picked up the book, really. I started implementing it, and it was really nice to always go back to what the growth mindset is to get me back on track. And so I want to thank you for doing that and breaking it down for us. But one thing I want to tell the audience is that we first met at a seminar called the Emotional Intelligent Leadership Program. For the audience that don't know what that means, that just means that if you think about Tony Robbins and his seminar, think about that, but on steroids. Penny and Zenker, to me, she looked like she led by example. She basically took charge of what she was doing in these practices. But my question for you, Penny, is did you use the reset mindset in those instances?
Absolutely. I mean, what I say is, and this is what's happened for me, is that we start to practice these principles, this way of thinking, and then it becomes just a part of who we are and how we think. The whole reason why I attended that session was because I wanted to challenge myself to the next level of thinking, to be, looking at what limiting beliefs was I currently running under, and looking at new methods of how to reset myself and learn from other people. So, absolutely. And we had quite a few challenges in our session, right? It was real live challenges and things that we were asked to do, and some we didn't like, and there was a lot of resistance from myself included, and that was eye-opening, right? And so when that resistance came up, that was something that I fell back on, is to recognize what is it in me that's triggered right now. So like the very first night of the first program that we did, I won't give any details away, but I got really triggered. And I remember that I really just kind of sat back and didn't engage. And it took me not until sometimes when we reset, it's after the fact, right? When we reflect and think about what happened and what could we do differently. And that's where the lesson comes. Sometimes we're in the moment and we can reset because we said something that we recognize right away wasn't congruent or something like that. And sometimes we can even find that reset before it even comes out of our mouth. But in that particular situation, I stepped back. I decided to step in and engage with the group. But afterwards, I really sat down and asked myself, what happened there? What triggered me? And why did that trigger me? And I recognized that I had this away energy from certain ways that certain people led. So from like dictator type of leaders, right? And it just pushed me away. And that was sort of what I had experienced, was the leaders in that exercise didn't even wait until everybody got in the room. They started to fix the problem, which isn't leadership. Right? And that triggered me to being, well, if I jump in, people are going to see me as someone like that. And so it's just I call it being a professional noticer. These resets, they help us, and I call them reset moments. They help us take these purposeful pauses so that we can take a moment to reflect on what just happened and how did we show up and what can we learn from that. And it's super powerful when we take it all the way through each step, so that we step away from it. We can be objective in looking at ourselves, but then also we get some perspective as to what happened, what would we rather have happened, what would be better way of showing up, and then we can realign into the way that we show up in the future.
That reminds me of another psychologist. Her name was Carrie Dahlgren, I believe. She has a method similar to yours, but it's just like one way, which is the inner self. So she calls it the stop, drop, and feel.
Uh-huh.
She helps people with binge eating to stop it on its tracks. And she calls this process stop, drop, and feel, which means you stop before you consume that treat, that donut. You drop into your home base, your inner self, and then you feel what's coming up for you. Is that what you're saying? Some part of it?
Yeah, it could be. It's a slightly, so my three steps are step back, get perspective, and realign. So in a way, they could be the same, right? Stop, right, is step back. There's some nuances in that, but in essence, yeah, get some perspective. Why are you wanting this donut? And then realign by what is your true desire and your goal, and is that in alignment, and if not, align with what your intention and your goals are. So I think there's a lot to that, but she's got a different way and a specific. Mine is an overarching way of thinking, and she probably goes deep into solving that particular challenge. And so I'm giving more a general way of thinking that you can drop in any framework. So it's a mental model that other frameworks can also be used in it. So there are lots of reset practices. A quote can be a reset practice. Speaking of eating, my favorite quote to be a reset practice for me is nothing tastes as good as thin feels. Tony Robbins said that once, and it stuck with me, that anytime that I'm thinking of overindulging, nothing tastes as good as thin feels, right? And that it's that long-term feeling. And so we have lots of different reset practices that we can engage, but we need to have them ready for us, right? So if we write them down and say, for this kind of situation, this is the thing that I can quickly engage. For this type of situation, this is the type of thing I can quickly engage. And that's what it means, is to have that accessible in the moment when the pressure is high or when the emotion is flaring, right? Is how do we access it to reduce the intensity and be more objective so that we can be intentional.
Another thing that comes up, and you said it on your book as well, but reaction versus response, right? We can easily react to the donut,
Right.
right? Versus responding to that. Like, what's the long-term goals here?
Right. So we just have to decide what's more important, right? If we create that space for ourselves, then we won't react. We just take that moment, that pause, that reset moment to reconnect to why it's important. Why is it important that if you're talking about weight loss, why is it important that I lose 10 pounds? How will I feel after that? What will be different in my life? And what's it costing me by eating it, right? And where am I going to be in 5 years if I'm continually every day reaching for that donut? I'm going to be another 10 pounds heavier, and then I'm going to be 20 pounds down. I'm going to have to buy all new jeans because, I got heavier. Maybe I won't be as attractive to my partner. This is called the Dickens process, is when you see all the things that it's costing you over time. Again, it's a Tony Robbins thing. I used to work with Tony Robbins, so I know his practice as well. When we get connected to the pain that it's going to cost us in the future, then it helps us to make that decision that that's not what we want. And that becomes a reset practice.
Yeah. It goes back to belief systems. And well, in my experience, for me, we live in a hypnotic state. And this goes back to free will. Could it be that there is no free will unless we use the reset mindset? Or maybe instead of seeing this black and white, maybe it's partially true. Can you give me your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think saying that feels right to me. When we're unconscious about what we're doing, I mean, it's still a choice, but it's not a conscious choice. So in that case, if you want to call that free will, we are being driven by all the technology and the distractions, and we're here and we're there, and we drive somewhere and we don't even remember the drive, right? We went on autopilot and we just go. And every day we just continue to do it. We watch a show at night after work, and then another, right? And that's instead of doing some of the things that we want to do, which is go out with friends and reconnect and, do things that really connect us. So I think this reset mindset is exactly what brings us back into our heart, brings us back into our consciousness, brings us back into the part of our head that is driving intention, right? Intention doesn't only come from the heart. It also, comes from the logic side of what we want. So the heart, and it's where they connect. And then making sure that we are being conscious about those choices more often. Make more reset moments is what I say.
I know you also talked about it's like a muscle, you know, the more you repeat it, the easier it gets. And do you think that's the practical way in doing the reset process, is doing the 1, 2, 3 steps and then doing it continuously?
Absolutely. It's I mean, that's neuroplasticity, right?
Hmm.
Is that our brains, right? What we know about our brains is that we build new synapses by repetition, or synapse, sorry. So
Hmm.
so somebody was telling me that they saw this cool video which shows them like firing and how they find each other and connect. The more that you repeat something, the more and the stronger those connections are. It's through repetition. And the more we repeat it, it becomes then a part of who we are. If we want to create a new habit and a new way of being, then we have to repeat it over and over again. It just doesn't, it's like you said before, like a muscle. You can't go to the gym once and stretch your muscles and use weights and expect to build muscle.
Hmm.
It doesn't happen once. You have to go repeatedly over and over time, and then you build muscle as it builds up and breaks down and builds up, right? And
Right.
that's the process of our brain as well.
Is there some truth to this? You know, that saying that it's hard to train an old dog new tricks, but it's easier to train a younger dog, you know, tricks. So, with this belief system that I have, or maybe what other people have, my dad says this a lot. He says, these habits are already ingrained in me. I can't change how I eat. I can't change my lifestyle, Alejandro, he says.
Right.
Is there some truth to that?
Well, what do you think?
I think that there's resistance, but at least make it so simple for you to do it. So, for instance, I tell my clients this all the time. I say, it's hard for you to work out by yourself, but what if, and again, I got this from Stephen Guys, a guy who has a similar system. It's called mini habits.
Mm-hmm.
He talked about doing one push up,
Mm-hmm.
and that's just to make it easy for you to do it, right?
To get
So
started.
that's why I tell my clients, if you want to train by yourself, do one machine or one workout. That's all. 10 reps, 1 rep, whatever it is, that's a win.
Right.
At least for me, I think people want to go from 0 to 100 real quick,
Of course they do.
and they self-sabotage.
Yes, absolutely. The expectations are too high, right? We have to make sure that we're setting realistic expectations. And I think, back to your dad's question, my brother is very similar. He'll say the same thing. This is the way that I am. Yes, what you've done till now has embedded a lot of those belief systems and the way of being, but we can change if we decide to change. I actually have an old dog, and I did teach her a new trick. There, I taught her how to shake her paw at like the age of 8. So we can. The question is, what's in the way? What is that resistance? Where's it coming from? It's usually tied to something else. If we can find out what that is, or create enough pain that it makes you do it, or like you said, make it easy. But the problem is, we try to force behavior change. I'm going to do those push-ups. I'm going to show up at the gym every day. That's a behavior change. But if you don't change your thinking, then you're going to run up against that resistance, right? When you change your thinking, it'll automatically change your expectations, your attitudes, and your priorities. So we want to change the thinking. In my TEDx, I called it, and I did it during that program that we were at during that time. It's called the energy of thought. And that's exactly the idea, is we have to change our thinking, and changing the energy of our thinking will change everything. So it'll mean that we can actually shift very quickly into a completely different direction, and it'll be easier to show up at the gym every day, because now we're not thinking that I dread this, and this is only leading to me giving up, and I don't want to have that depression because I always give up. Those things that are going on in the head, right? We have to change our thinking. I don't believe that changing our actions is the easier path. It's easier actually to change our thinking.
Yeah, and I see this in my clients where they don't want to weigh themselves. And I get it, you know, weighing yourself can trigger the limiting beliefs, and you become self-conscious of how much you weigh. I don't know what your strategy is with that. Do we eliminate and not weigh ourselves? I mean,
If that
what do you,
triggers someone,
yeah.
in my opinion, if I were coaching them, if that triggers them, then I would not have them do it every day. You don't want to trigger, right? So you want to be aware of what are your triggers, what are your positive triggers, and what are your negative triggers, right? What triggers joy in you? What triggers motivation and excitement? Find out those triggers and turn on those, you know? Of course, you're going to have to, it's a baseline, so you'll have to weigh in the beginning so that you have the baseline. But if they know that that's the only thing they're weighing themselves for is the baseline, and that they can fall in love with something in the process and not have that weighing, they can just focus on what makes them feel good, and then they can weigh in a week. Are they tracking what they eat, right? Then they're writing that down, and now they're having a lot more awareness of what is coming in. That's going to help them eat healthier. It's going to help them think twice before they eat that thing that has 3 times the calories as, you know, something that's a better choice. Helps them to make better choices. Weighing yourself at the end doesn't really, all it is that measurement, and weighing yourself every day is actually creating more stress. It's not worth it. But something like giving you that opportunity to be present to your choice, right? Then that tracking of your food would be a reset practice to help you to be more conscious of your choices and stay aligned. But I think that there's not a huge value in the weighing every day. So remove it.
Yeah, that brings back to our stress loads. And we're constantly putting stress in our bodies, our minds, our spirits. And that can be another stressor for them, you know? And then at the end of the day, they don't have any energy for themselves.
That's
and
right.
maybe that's why people go back to, you know, being on their phones, because this is what they have left for themselves.
Well, and it's addicting, right? So I mean, the problem is that every time we go to our phone to see if there's an email or a text or to scroll, you know, it's actually creating, and you know, dopamine is being released, which means that it's drugging us. As hard as it is, we have to pre-decide, set boundaries and pre-decide what's good for us, just like eating. You know, if you prepare your foods ahead of time, you're going to be more likely to eat the right foods because they're there, they're quick and easy for you to grab, right? So the same is true about setting boundaries and making things clear with our phones. If we have a basket to put it in during dinner time and that's where it goes, we pre-decide, everybody in the family, that's where it goes, and it doesn't come to the table. Now you able to have a nice meal without that interruption, right? If you decide that during your work practices, you're going to have 45 minutes of focus time, then you pre-decide that and say, put your phone in the drawer or in the other room. And then after your timer goes off that you did your 45-minute chunk of focus on one item, then you can give yourself a reward or a break and go get your phone, check your email or whatever you need to do give yourself also a time limit. So for 10 minutes, and then, you know, get ready for your next activity.
And so going back to the reset mindset, how does it look like in your everyday life?
Well, so, you know, for everybody, it's different, right? We have regular, let's say, reset practices that help us to prime our day, different types of check-ins that are built into our process. And then we have timeouts that come as needed. So a typical day for me might look like when I get up, part of my morning reset practice is to work out. And so that I'm priming myself, it gives me the energy. It's a reset because it starts my day with positive energy. I look at my goals and what it is I want to accomplish today. I have, you know, a structure that I work within, and I do that in the morning every day to prime myself. So that's a reset practice to get focused on what needs to get done today. And then I start working through my things, but then maybe I get frustrated because I get stuck on something that I'm working on. Then I take a reset moment and I get up and I go walk around my cul-de-sac outside to get a fresh perspective, to walk away from what I'm doing. Different things like that. Or I feel like I've been sitting for too long in this one place, so I'll bring my computer and I'll bring it over to another counter. And just by shifting locations, like right now I'm standing, right? So standing helps me to have a different energy than when I'm sitting, so all of those different things, even though they're very little, they're little reset practices. One of the things I also do, I'm just grabbing, like I have essential oils here so that before I start a new session, or if I feel like I'm drained a little bit, it smells so good. It's a little jasmine.
Let me smell it.
It's jasmine. You see? Smell? There we go. Where do I put up the thing? There we go. See? Wow, that's amazing. And that's all it takes, actually. You can reset yourself through your senses are your fastest way to your it's the fastest way to your nervous system. Bam. That's what I was thinking of. So just smelling something like that in 60 seconds, you actually are reducing the compounding stress that may be happening throughout the day. So you're enabling yourself to make that release and change your nervous system.
Wow. I didn't know the scientific reason. I was just doing it naturally. So one of my practice that I started doing is, and again, this is not for everybody. I know, but this is called Hape. It's something what the tribes used to do, and they put like tobacco, and they'll sniff it up their nose, and that will basically get you grounded and alert. And so I've been doing that. I did it before this call, and I feel like super energetic, maybe too energetic, grounded and alert. And so I can definitely vouch for that. Some people use peppermint, the essential oil, peppermint.
Yeah. Peppermint is great for that. And lemon is great, right? So yeah, those are typical scents that really light us up very quickly, right? Because I don't know the scientific reason why peppermint is, it opens up our pores, like it's because of the mint part.
And I think that gets us out of that hypnotic state that I was talking about.
Yeah, for sure, right? It makes you more present. It makes you more intentional and thoughtful, and that's what you need to have a great conversation, or to make a reflection, or to do quality work or meaningful work. So we need to take those little breaks. And lately I've been slipping. I've been sitting at my desk way too long. I have a lot of things happening at once, and like you said, social media. I'm typically not on social media, but because of my book launch, I'm all over social media, and it's so draining. And I'm actually really excited that I had a great month with the book launch, and I have a couple more days left, and then the launch part is over. And I'm kind of looking forward to that because it's been pulling me in all different directions. And I'm happy to get back to it creates multitasking, right? Being present in social media all the time just has all these things happening at the same time, where you've got to respond to this and you got to do that. And so I'm happy to take a break from that for a while.
I'm actually pretty impressed that it's already in Barnes & Noble, right?
Yeah, it's everywhere. I actually have been 3 weeks running national bestseller from USA Today. So
wow.
It's been doing great. I'm getting great feedback and great reviews. And for people who are listening, I'd love for you to go out and get a copy and let me know what you think. Write a review, contact me, let me know what inspired you, send me your underlines. I love seeing what people, feel are the most important parts for them, stuff like that.
I can tell everyone, I really vouch for this, because this book has me thinking a lot and reflecting and analyzing. And if you don't mind, Penny, can I quote something from your book that really hit home for me?
Yeah, please do.
Okay. What's crazy is just the beginning of the book, and I'm like, wow, this is deep. So you said, why wait for the big life-changing moments to come along when it is possible to realign my thinking and reset my focus at any time? That reminded me, I had this limiting belief, and that was that when I retire, I'm going to live near the beach or at a beach. And why is that a limiting belief? Why wait till I retire when I can do it now?
Yeah, totally.
I ended up strategizing how I'm going to do that. And that is living van life. So right now at this moment, outside his gym, I have a van out there. And this month, I'm going to buy the van kit to start building it up. I had to stop and just like tear up a bit because it really, really showed me how far I went.
Yeah.
Not let my limiting belief system dictate my life.
Absolutely. And who knows, when you're ready for that information, that same line might mean something different to someone else. But when we're ready for that information, what's the expression, when you're ready, the teacher arrives, right? It
Yes,
can be
yes,
in any
yes.
form. Like for me, I get all these messages, if I want to call it that, right? These epiphanies or in movies can hit us emotionally. They take us on a journey, and I'll find something that nobody else like got connected to, but it meant something to me. And I think that's the beauty of reading different books and engaging with different people, is that something that someone says can trigger a reset for you to think about what's limiting you, or what else is possible, challenging you to think beyond where you are today, or just even the small, tiny, how do I get started on something? What's something like that. Like resets don't have to be these big things, right? The little things every day. Like, how can I deepen this relationship? And what are the little things that I could start doing? Like a few compliments just to let somebody know what they mean to me, and how special they are, and put it into words that maybe I haven't been saying, right? And that can make all the difference.
Wow. You have a lot of nuggets there. How long have you been doing this, Penny?
I was just going to say I've lived a long life. It's funny that you said how long you've been doing this. I've been doing this a long time. Even, I mean, ever since I was in high school, like I always had this sort of practical psychological interest. People would always come to me. I thought I was going to be a psychiatrist or something, because people from everywhere, they would come to me, they'd tell me their stories, their problems, their challenges. So I think I've always been an empath in that sense, right? And had a more heightened interest and connection and understanding. So I've been practicing it no matter what I've been doing, whether I was growing my IT business, right? I had people to manage, and I learned a lot. I've learned a lot of lessons from the different adventures in my life. And I lived overseas for 16 years. And I think that helped me tremendously to see things from other people's eyes. Because I'm in a totally foreign country, they speak a different language. It just opens you up in a different way.
Yeah. And their values are different.
Yeah, their values, how they behave, just like, I mean, you can go to different parts of the United States and people are very different and they have different values.
Mm-hmm.
It's fascinating. I think the more you learn about people, right? It's easier to learn more about people when you immerse yourself in other cultures, even if it's within other states. And the more you learn about people in general, the more you learn about yourself.
Yeah. And that's by being open minded and, like you said in your book, curious.
Curious. Yeah, for sure.
Wow. Well, thank you, Penny, for being here. I think this is a good time to end it. Make it short and sweet, which is 50 minutes, which is not too short
Not so
either.
short, but sweet.
Everyone, please get your hands on the reset process or the reset mindset.
Reset mindset. Yeah.
We'll share this in the links down below for you to order your copy. Thank you, Penny. I'll also leave your links if anybody wants to work with you. Is there any final thoughts, Penny?
I would just say make more reset moments, create the space, be a professional noticer, and really recognize those signals that are coming every day, whether you're exhausted or whether you're anxious or whatever it is. That's time to take a reset. So make more reset moments. And with that, you'll live a happier, more meaningful, and just a better life.
Thank you, Penny. All right, everyone. And I will see you guys on the next. Namaste.